Every single night General Charles would sink his teeth into Alice's shoulder. And Alice, she actually liked the pain. She fell for him hard. 3 years of this and then Charles finally healed. He could pick up his sword again. He was back. Everyone in the house assumed he'd be grateful, assumed he had feelings for Alice. Then one day Alice overheard him talking with his boys. His friend brought it up. Alice took care of you for 3 whole years. You're healed now, so are you gonna marry her or what? Charles said yes, she's good at serving people. If his friend wanted her, he could just take her. 3 years of her whole heart. And that's all it was worth to him. It was a joke. She was crushed. She knew her place. She was just a servant. She was never in his league. And Charles was already set to marry Lucy, the woman he actually loved. Alice didn't waste time. She went straight to the lady of the house. The lady acknowledged it. Alice served Charles faithfully for 3 years until he recovered. She even offered to make Alice his concubine. Alice said no, she only wanted one thing, her freedom contract back. The lady was stunned. She wasn't asking for a title. That caught everyone off guard. They all figured she'd use this moment to push for more. Try to become the young mistress of the house. Turns out they had her all wrong. The lady didn't hesitate. She handed over the contract and threw in 20 bolts of silk and $10,000 on top of that. Meanwhile, Charles had just recovered and still needed his medicine. One sip and he spat it right out. What is this? It's disgusting. The servants told him this is the same medicine you always drink. Charles said it never tasted this bitter before. The servants explained the recipe hadn't changed. Alice always made it by hand. She used to sneak honey in every single time to soften the taste. Now that Alice took her contract and left, none of them knew how she did it. One servant quietly asked, should we bring her back? Charles waved it off. No need. She'll come crawling back in a few days. He was sure of it. Meanwhile, Alice was out here living her best life. No more walking on eggshells. She felt lighter than she had in years. $10,000? That's a full decade of easy living. One day she headed to the market to trade the silk for cash and ran right into Charles with his buddy Jack by his side. His fiancée Lucy was there too. Alice tried to slip away quietly. Jack spotted her and called her out. Jack heard she wasn't working at the general's estate anymore. He offered to buy her silk at double the price. Even invited her to hang out with them. She saw Charles standing right there and wanted nothing to do with any of it. She turned Jack down as politely as she could. Then the next second, Jack grabbed her and threw her up onto the horse anyway. Didn't care what she said. After a rough ride, they finally arrived. Jack dragged Alice right in front of Charles on purpose. Said he needed someone to wait on him. He'd pay her triple. Then looked at Charles and asked if he had a problem with that. Alice saw Charles's face go cold. She dropped to her knees fast. Said she was already getting old. She barely managed to get her freedom back. All she wanted now was to get married and not die alone. She begged Jack to let her go. Jack laughed and said he was just talking. Nobody forced Alice to do anything. She's the one who started bowing on her own. He said he had no idea whose attention she was actually trying to get. Then Jack twisted the knife. Said just last year Charles and Alice were inseparable. Now that his legs healed, he's moved on. That's when it clicked for Alice. Jack was after Lucy, Charles's fiancée. He dragged her here just to stir things up. Charles snapped, drew his sword and went at Jack, then spun around and kicked Alice to the ground. He was convinced Alice planned this whole thing with Jack, a setup to drive a wedge between him and Lucy. He raised his sword at Alice. Lucy stepped in and stopped him just in time. She reminded him, Alice took care of you for 3 years. Charles looked at Lucy standing there calm and gracious. He lowered the sword and told Alice to get out of his sight. Alice ended up lost alone in the mountains. She found a rundown temple and hid inside to rest. The more she thought about it, the worse it hurt. Tears just kept coming. Whatever was left of her feelings for Charles gone. Then a servant appeared out of nowhere, asked if she needed help. Alice immediately asked to be taken back to the city. The servant hesitated, because sitting in that carriage was Prince Thomas, one of the most powerful men alive. Thomas heard everything and agreed right away. But the second Alice climbed in, she saw a woman's body. Before she could even process it, Thomas pulled her inside. Thomas didn't reveal who he was, just said he was here on official business investigating a case. Something about him felt safe. She fell asleep on his shoulder and didn't wake up until morning. She woke up mortified and started apologizing. Thomas wasn't bothered at all. He asked if she wanted him to drop her home. Alice didn't want to be any more trouble. She said she was fine and stepped out. What she didn't know, Thomas lifted the curtain and watched her walk away. Something in his chest felt off. He didn't want her to go. Alice didn't go home though. She went to her father's grave and told him everything that happened. After everything she'd been through, Alice made up her mind, find a good man and get married fast. That was the only way out of this cycle. But as she was leaving, Charles showed up looking for her. He dragged Alice back to the estate and locked her in a room. Charles was convinced Alice was playing games with him, playing hard to get. He brought her there to make her say out loud what she really felt. He gave her an out. He expected her to take it. Alice looked him dead in the eye. She had zero feelings left for him, none. She told him sincerely she hoped he and Lucy had a beautiful life together. Charles looked like he'd lost it. He grabbed her face and said what's his stays his, and that included Alice. Alice snapped back whatever he was planning. She wanted no part of it. Charles didn't even flinch. He grabbed her by the waist and told her to stop moving. Just as things were about to go somewhere dark, Lucy walked in looking for Charles.